Konosuba Volume 11. Chapter 5. Epilogue. Part 1. That night, after taking our time to do our great deed, we split the rewards for the Griffin quest amongst others, feasted at the guild and didn't return until now. Kameko fell asleep halfway home from being too full, so darkness piggybacked her for the remainder of the way. She's currently sleeping on Megumin's bed. Hiking in addition to the intense battle. While it was tiring, in the end we enjoyed that rare feeling of huge accomplishment. Slipping under the sheets, I was about to close my eyes and embrace that alcohol-fueled good night's sleep when... Kazuma, are you awake? If you are, may I interrupt for a second? Megumin's voice came from the door. I'm still awake, about to sleep though. No. It took massive effort for me to visit, don't be so quick to fall asleep. Megumin opened the door and entered as she complained. I didn't sit up from the bed, but poked only my head out instead. What are you here for this late in the night? Kameko rarely stays over, are you sure you don't want to accompany her? Although I haven't a clue when your parents will come pick her up, she can't stay here forever, can she? Though personally I see no problem in letting her live here. Not that I want to make moves on a lowly. The vivid memories of my time with Iris at the capital are still on my mind. Right, Iris told me to write letters to her when I remember what had happened. Even if I do head to the guild tomorrow, I'd only find quests like toad killing. So, I should better write that letter. As I planned mentally, Megumin started quietly giggling. No, actually, Yunyun came to me just a while ago. It has indeed been a few days since we last saw that girl, where did she go? Funifura and Dodonko also said they couldn't find her anywhere, could she really have gone into hiding? And then? What happened to Yunyun? Did she come to play with Kameko? Nope. She was here to pass a message from the Crimson Demon Village, that the demon army occupying the village has been successfully repelled. What a battle-born race. As expected of the strongest mage clan, the Crimson Magic Clan. It's only been a few days. Couldn't they reserve their potential for something more practical? Isn't that good news? Although, that would also mean... That's right, I heard that my mother will be picking up Kameko tomorrow. Megumin showed a lonely smile. All the more reasons you should sleep by her side tonight. Are you sure you would rather be here? It's fine, no problem. She's a tough child. Or rather, I'm afraid I'm the one who gets hurt more if I stayed with her any longer. Speaking of which, this girl really is a bit of a siscon. Then, Megumin lowered her head. Kazuma, thanks for all your help these past few days, I'm extremely grateful. She suddenly thanked me. Don't be such a stranger. Even though I nearly lost something precious due to my laziness and degeneracy, it makes me happy knowing that everything's like when it started. I smiled wryly as I spoke. Megumin also giggled in return. Indeed, the battle we had today felt akin to the ones we fought long ago. Say, this counts as a sign of growth, right? Darkness had asked the same question on our way back to the guild, however, I didn't agree with the phrasing. Frankly, since I last leveled up, my stats have been rising even more slowly. It's possible that my stats are close to being maxed out, a reality that I'm not too keen to accept. There are no cheats here, so it really is no joking matter when I get stuck with the same stats regardless of my level. Not understanding my pain and sorrow, Megumin cheerfully chatted with me instead. By the way, do you still remember? That time when we first met? She asked in a strongly sentimental tone. Of course I do, you told me a confusing and awkward name as complete strangers, then abruptly fell to the floor. On top of that, the next thing to come out of your mouth was something about not having eaten for 3 darn days. Who in the world can forget an experience like that? Oi, how many times do I have to say this? If you have a problem with my name then tell it to my face. Seeing the red glow in Megumin's eyes as she approached me, I too felt a wave of nostalgia as the memories of this banter we used to share returned. It could be that my face did a poor job hiding that thought, or it could be that Megumin isn't really mad at me. But she chuckled. And so did I. Kazuma, I actually knew you before then. Megumin suddenly said something important like that. Perhaps Kazuma and Aqua don't know about this, but I was in fact familiar with the two of you before I joined the party. Ha! Implying that Aqua and I stood out that much? Let me explain, it's because of all the fuss you two had made. Getting in trouble at every turn, raging and crying all the time. Be it working at the guild vineyard, working at the grocery, you two managed to get yelled at everywhere. And that's how I memorized you too. So you're saying that we left basically no good impressions? Megumin then laughed happily. However, despite everything, the two of you always seem to be enjoying yourselves. That was the real reason I chose your party. At the time, I was thinking of all the fun I could also be having if I adventured with you. Since she put it that way, I could no longer stay mad. Although, if someone told me at the time that I would take a liking to Kazuma, there's not a chance that I would have believed them either. Ha! Was my first impression that bad? It's quite hurtful of you to describe me that way. She again giggled happily. Kazuma. What now? I'm getting very sleepy, so could you stop bothering me? The alcohol is really taking a toll on my ability to stay awake. In response to my little tantrum, she. It's about time for us to advance our relationship to somewhere between friends and lovers. Flung me a fastball out of the blue. Part 2. Sorry for the trouble, Kazuma-san, thanks for taking care of my daughters. No, it was nothing. I should thank your daughter for taking care of me. The next morning. I got no happy ending after her unilateral declaration. Instead, she plainly bid me good night and returned to her room. And when we ran into each other this morning, she greeted me as if nothing had happened. Even though I understand we shouldn't be too reckless with Kameko in the house, what is she playing at by leaving right after saying something like that? Thanks to her, I got almost no sleep last night. Their family is truly full of demons, both sisters are demonic. When you said thank your daughter for taking care of me, in which context did you mean by taking care? Though I wouldn't mind whatever it might mean. After all, my daughter has reached the age to seek romantic partnership. Megumin's mom Yuyui-san started saying these strange things. For some reason, upon hearing age to seek romantic partnership, Darkness shuddered as she said her farewells to Kameko at the door. I guess as a noble, she must be self-conscious about people possibly thinking that she's reached the unwanted age if she doesn't marry soon. Taking care as in while fighting and adventuring, I didn't mean anything strange by it. I know, I've heard everything from my daughter. I understand you very well, Kazuma-san. Everything's fine as long as you can take the responsibility. Hearing such things from Yuyui, I jerked my head towards Megumin and shot her a glare. However, she shook her head panically. Which means that the daughter she spoke of was. Under the collective gaze of Megumin and I, Kameko took out her notebook. It's that notebook she used to record everything happening around me. The blue-haired One-Isan is so great, she punched a ghost with her bare fists. The armored One-Isan is also very great, she got eaten by a giant bird. One-Ichan's boyfriend is also super great, he killed a woman with weed killer. One-Ichan is also super duper great, not sure why yet. What was that last part supposed to mean? Even though Megumin explained her strengths countless of times to this young girl, she still doesn't seem to understand at all. At this point, Megumin was overwhelmed with sadness, and she fell to the carpet on all fours. Yuyui then took the notebook and continued to read. One-Ichan isn't with me tonight, I think she went to her boyfriend's room, then when I went to check, I heard her saying something like being between friends and lovers. Kameko. So you were awake that entire time? How dare you eavesdrop on me? When did you start listening in? Megumin abruptly leapt up from the carpet, yelling with a fully flushed face. Her mother answered with a gentle smile. There's no need to hide it, as a mother, I'm satisfied so long as you are happy. Megumin once again dropped to the carpet and rolled around with her head in her arms. Yuyui no longer paid attention to her. Well, Kazuma-san, we'll be calling farewell now. On another note, though I've heard rumors about it before, I didn't believe your mansion would be this luxurious. With that, I can now entrust my daughter to you without reluctance. Saying that, Yuyui started an incantation, which is probably the teleportation spell. Goodbye Oni-san, I want to eat frogs again the next time I visit. Yuyui, ancestor of mine. Dost thou honestly have no better topic to discuss during this precious reunion with your beloved daughter? Megumin asked desperately. Hurry up and have a kid. It's hard to imagine something like this being told to a teenager. Hey, Mom. Before Megumin could fire back, Yuyui took Kameko into her arms. Live a great life, all. I've already thought of a name for my grandchild. And like a gust of wind. Teleport. They disappeared without trace. Good morning. Hey, I'm really craving chicken this morning. Where did Kameko go? After sending Yuyui off. Because the farewell had been so anticlimactic, we were still stuck in the mood. And just now, the one who could read anything but the mood Aqua finally got up. How much longer were you planning to sleep? Kameko has already left. Why? Didn't we agree to go catch Neroids together today? Weren't you crying because of them a while ago? Neroids are very weak, even children can fight them, so to say. However, I didn't think she'd take it literally. After finally snapping out of it from Aqua's comment, Megumin said. I'm really sorry for the trouble I brought upon everyone this time, really sorry for everyone having to deal with my mother and sister. Come to think of it, wasn't everything caused by your heroic posturing before your parents? Facing my insult, Megumin awkwardly turned her gaze away. Since I'm happy, I'll let it slide. We could invite her over anytime anyway, we'll have go catch Neroids together next time. Said Aqua cheerfully. Oi, Kazuma. About what Megumin's mother said a while ago. After Darkness anxiously fidgeted and struggled to decide whether she should speak up, she managed to find enough courage to say it in the end. We still stood by the door after Kameko had left. Unbelievably, someone knocked on it. Thinking that Kameko might have left something behind, we opened the door to find a young girl with blue eyes and blonde hair. By her appearance, she should be slightly younger than Kameko, right? Her face feels somewhat familiar. She cautiously looked up at us, then spotted Darkness beside me. Mommy! She then excitedly yelled such a thing before tightly embracing Darkness. End of Volume 11, The Archwizard's Sister. Side story, for Irisama's sake. Just how did this come to be? Then let's begin, Dustiness Dano. Even if you are my opponent. No, it is because you are my opponent that I will not hold back. Agreed, Shinfornia Dano. Shinfornia of the Sword. Dustiness of the Shield. Together we are the two noble families that have protected this kingdom through the years. Let us decide which of us is superior here and now. We were currently at the capital's training grounds. Iris bodyguards and educators, Claire and Darkness, were currently facing one another with swords in hand. The person in question, Iris, merely looked on in excitement. There's a reason for this, of course. It all began back when we were all enjoying our afternoon tea. After hearing about Iris' heroics, I had praised her with all my heart, but Iris was so incredible back then. No, really, it was amazing. I think my little sister is the strongest in the world. Oni-sama, you seem to only talk like that when it's about me, but you shouldn't forget that this nation is filled with talented people. In particular, Claire and Lalatina are my prided retainers. Claire and Darkness became bashful upon hearing Iris' praise. I've heard about Claire's skill, but I'm more than familiar with the other's worthless tendencies. Perhaps noticing my doubtful gaze, Darkness, whose gaze floated freely, initiated an unexpected conversation in an effort to shut me up. Even if you say that, I fear that I cannot win against Kazuma. Her hurried flattery was, in a sense, much like hush money. Now that you mention it, Kazuma Dano is certainly someone who would give me a hard time as well. That said, I would hesitate to call the way he fights his combat. Claire, who had once had her underwear stripped by me, agreed with a strained laugh. Oni-sama, you had a match with Lalatina as well? I did. Well, I'm the guy who defeated the hero of the demon sword, so it's a given that they would lose to me, right? There's nothing for them to be embarrassed about. That may have been a bit cocky of me, but Darkness and Claire remained silent. You really are full of mysteries, Oni-sama. Your level is not particularly high and your stats are all so low, but for some reason you still manage to win in the end. I don't know anyone quite as miraculous as you. That's right. That's exactly right. Listen, Iris, there are a lot of things in this world which cannot be measured by numbers alone. What's truly important is this, I said, as I thumped a fist against my chest. Pectorals. The heart. I immediately retorted Iris, who was a natural airhead every once in a while. Oh. By the way, Oni-sama, who was trickier for you to handle, Lalatina or Claire? Iris asked with keen interest. For her to be curious about this sort of thing, she really was a militant princess. If I had to choose, it'd probably be Darkness. All in all, she's really tough and has a lot of stamina. Metaphorically speaking, she's pretty much a barbarian. Might I suggest a change of wording perhaps? Or would you prefer to experience my toughness firsthand? I ignored Darkness, who aggressively clenched her fists. As for Claire, she admitted defeat after I stripped her of her panties, so I really can't say much about her. Either way, haven't the two of you already fought before? Darkness and Claire turned to glance at one another. Seeing this, Iris explained. Lalatina lives in Axel, so there hasn't been a chance for that. But that said, a little part of me does want to see how the two would fight one another. Upon hearing Iris' wish, her two loyal retainers stood up from their seats. Key. Claire screamed like a bird in heat or something and struck Darkness' armor. Judging from the scratch on her armor, Darkness seemed to gain a good idea of Claire's offensive power. Darkness abandoned all defense and swung her greatsword with all her might in a wide arc. Perhaps out of coincidence, the sword grazed the tip of Claire's nose and her face turned pale. Dustiness Dano, do you understand that this is not a deathmatch, but a spar? And what about it? There's no need to worry. After all, we have Aqua who can use resurrection in case something happens, so don't hold back. Come at me like you wanted to kill me. Now, let us continue with all due haste. I look forward to a much sharper strike than that. Show me the true strength of the household of swords. What has come over you, Dustiness Dano? What has become of your ever-present reason? The two continued to battle feverishly even amidst their exchange of words. Oni-sama, in your eyes, who do you think is better? You're asking for my personal opinion? Given my familiarity with her, I would probably favor darkness. On second inspection though, Claire isn't looking too bad, but in certain ways, she doesn't quite measure up to darkness. Maybe she overheard our conversation. I saw a happy smile trickle onto Darkness' face. Sorry about this, Shinforni Adano, but it seemed like he has quite a bit of faith in me, so as regrettable as it is, it's time for me to stop playing around. Let's finish this. Ignoring Claire's puzzlement, Darkness threw her sword aside, postured to take the fight seriously. You certainly seem to have a high opinion of Lalatina, Oni-sama. Is the difference between the two really that great? Iris asked as I observed the climax of the desperate battle between the two. First off, Claire is way too slender, if you know what I mean. By my personal taste, I much prefer Darkness' figure. Second, long hair scores high points in my book. No, short hair isn't exactly bad either, you know? But in truth, Darkness has a better body and bigger chest, so it would only be fair for her to win out in the end. Oni-sama, what are you talking about? I was talking about who you thought stronger, not who is more to your taste. From the Tora no Anna first print edition. Side story, the strongest skill. The day we returned to the capital. So then, I said this. Before my explosion magic, a dragon is not but a lizard. After that, Iris made eye contact with me as if to tell me that I will concede this prey to you. Oh my. A banquet was held for us after we escorted Iris back to the castle. The hot topic at the moment was of course Iris. To hear about Iris, various nobles and people affiliated with the castle gathered to attend the banquet. In that moment, I thought to myself, would it not be for the greater good were I to concede this grand accomplishment to Iris? While it is certain that my explosion magic can slay a dragon with ease, my explosion magic is simply far too powerful. If I were to strike it with my grand magic, there is no doubt that naught would be left of the dragon's valuable corpse. The nobles gathered around Megumin, who fluently told the tale of her gallantry. The purpose of our journey was to obtain the wealth needed to fight against the Demon King army. If my opponent were just a dragon, then I, a Crimson Magic clansman, can beat it without breaking a sweat. However, I ask of you all, would there be any meaning at doing that? Having found my answer, I decided that I would only make my move if Iris were to miss her chance, so I prepared my magic and patiently looked on. How wonderful! As one would expect of the wise Crimson Magic clansman. The wisdom to be able to consider so many factors in an instant is truly superb. Megumin has been spreading exaggerations for a while now. If I had to give it a number, I'd say that her stories were exaggerated 9 times over. In truth, Megumin had been really flustered when the dragon appeared, but... What happened next, Megumin Dano? How was the dragon defeated? Please continue. The nobles who each held a wine glass, who were perhaps excited due to their drunkenness, passionately prompted Megumin to continue. Megumin, who bore a serious expression, nodded in response. Sacred explode. When Iris shouted that, the entire mountain was covered in light. Then before I knew it, the dragon was dead. She bluntly explained. That's our Iris-sama. Her talents stand out even amongst royalty. Would it not be best for Iris-sama herself to personally embark to slay the Demon King? Before that, you would have to convince His Majesty. Surely you know how much he dotes on Iris. However, is it not because our final trump card, Iris-sama, is present at the capital that we may send the greater half of our forces to the front lines without worry? That aside, the power is as one would expect of the world's strongest skill. The security of Belzerg is practically guaranteed. The attention of the listeners swiftly drifted from Megumin to Iris. Megumin, who firmly believed that explosion was the strongest, showed a displeased expression when she heard the conversation. Suddenly, a moment of realization seemed to have overcome her visage. Sacred explode. Doesn't this name remind you all of something else? Said Megumin with an expression full of confidence and triumph. What does it remind me of? The name Sacred Explode reminds me that it is a legendary sword skill that only the most talented of the royal family, armed with the holy sword, can use, said one of the nobles as he nodded his head. No, wait. A different man cried out as if coming to some sort of realization. Sacred Explode. Isn't the name Explode eerily similar to explosion? Perhaps there is some relationship between them. Ah, probably not, huh? Embarrassed by what he said, the man tried to pass it off as a joke. That's it. Megumin snappily pointed to the man. You sir have some very keen insight. Yes, Sacred Explode and Explosion have pretty similar names, do they not? Do you all understand what this means? To be honest, I don't think there's any special meaning behind the similar names. Shut up for a moment, Kazuma. I was told off by Megumin the moment I butted into the conversation. Allow me to tell everyone this. The magic, explosion, is humanity's penultimate attack that was devised by a certain grand magician who devoted his life to opposing the absolute beings that exceed human knowledge. If a dragon will meet its end in one strike, then what of demons and gods? Even such great existences will be damaged by this magic of unparalleled destruction. Hearing that, the audience gulped. Explosion and explode. One is the ultimate magic, and the other the ultimate strike. At this point, it would be strange for you all to fail to see the connection, especially after I have said so much. Yes, the creator of the ultimate strike bore reverence towards this ultimate magic and invented this skill through reference. Is that so? No, but the names are certainly quite similar. Simply put, this skill is a ripoff of explosion. Then would it not be correct to say that the dragon was merely defeated by a poor man's explosion? What the heck are you saying? Shut up, Kazuma. As I pulled a straight man act towards Megumin's unbelievable statements, the nobles began to discuss this newfound controversy. Approaching Megumin. Oi, haven't you thrown everyone into disorder with your statements? What are you going to do if the scholars start doing intensive research because of this? Do you mean to complain about my conclusion of what the strongest skill is? To start with, the very fact that explosion was even compared to other inferior skills is very irritating. I don't think I've done anything wrong. This is quite defiant of her. Remember when we visited the castle a while back? You got full of yourself and called yourself a grand magician, but when people pestered you to show some advanced magic, all you could do was act all flustered. Who knows when that might happen again? Wait, you didn't say anything crazy like that anywhere else, did you? Megumin abruptly turned her eyes away. Nope, not at all. Oi, don't tell me, what the heck did you do this time? Was this in Axel? Or maybe the village? Oh, I see, so it is the village, isn't it? Now that I think about it, you sent some pretty exaggerated letters a while back, didn't you? So what the heck did you tell them this time? It wasn't until several days after we returned to Axel that I learned what Megumin had written. From the digital special edition. Side story, regarding the dangers of that skill. Kazuma-san. What about that fat guy over there? Try reading what he's saying. After escorting Iris back, we stayed at the castle for several days. These few days were filled with consecutive parties dedicated to Iris dragon slaying feat and hospitality for us. You mean that noble old man over there? Alright, leave it to me. During these parties, Aqua and I didn't have anything particular to do besides eat and drink, so we took to observing others. It was then that I paid more attention to a certain skill of mine. That being said, I could use my recently learned lip-reading skill somehow to entertain myself. What's this? We are out of mushroom sauce for my favorite lizard dragon dish? If there was that, the meal would have been perfect. The old man gave the feeling that he was dreaming about the food. I see. Hey, isn't that skill really fun to use? I would learn it if I still could. You're not wrong, but let me tell you this. When people are giggling in your direction, you have to be extra careful. Even if the person you're using the skill on doesn't want you to hear their shit talking, you'll be able to read it all in an instant. Some time ago, I used the skill on some female adventurers that were smiling towards me, thinking they were interested in me, and ended up taking some unexpected damage. That said though, I ended up confronting them about that. Heck, I persisted until they gave in and apologized. I even made them continue until I was satisfied. By the way, I also made them tell me 10 good things about myself before I let them off. You're as shady as ever, aren't you? Well, what about those people over there? Do you see those Aji-sans that are about as shady as you? I don't know what they're doing, but given how they're gathered near the wall and murmuring about stuff, I think they're up to no good. Call it a goddess instinct if you like, but I think they're making some kind of evil plot. Aqua pointed towards a group of 2 nobles, whom appeared to be rather unwelcoming, discussing something off to one side of the room. Interesting. Alright, I'll give it a try. Hey, I'm pretty sure they're up to that sort of thing. You know, like stealing the castle maid's underwear. Listening to what Aqua said, I started reading the conversation. So, are the rumors true? That Elrod's prime minister was a pawn of the Demon King army? There's no doubting it. Events will take a turn for worse if our secret dealings with the prime minister are discovered. If we don't hurry and destroy the evidence. Having read the exchange, I quickly surveyed my surroundings. It doesn't seem like anyone else saw or heard any of that. I should be in the clear. What are we going to do? I thought they were just playing a prank, but it seems that we've gotten ourselves into something bigger again. Hey, I didn't see or hear anything, but shouldn't we report whatever it is to Iris, Darkness, or some other bigwig? Once we're done with it, we can clean our hands of it. I nodded in agreement and accepted Aqua's suggestion without another word. Recently, her ability to detect danger has flourished. That said, I might be better off sealing this skill for good. At this rate, I might accidentally come across some national secret and get erased as a result. Having quickly realized the dangers of this skill, I pledged in my heart to never use this skill again. Hey, look, over there. Someone is hitting on Darkness over there. What? Aqua pointed towards the VIP seats, where a well-dressed Darkness was being passionately hit on by a noble youth. Irritated for no particular reason, I activated the lip-reading skill which I had sworn not to use again mere moments ago. Kazuma, knowing you'll read what they're saying, right? Tell me about it, okay? Aqua, who was brimming with curiosity, grabbed onto my shoulders and shook me around. Alright, listen in. Here's what that guy is saying. It sure has been a while, Lalatina-sama. Ooh, what is this? Since we last met, you have become magnificently beautiful. Your looks lead me astray. You are as beguiling as a death ambrosia blossoming deep in the mountains. Sorry, I can't do this anymore, it's too embarrassing. That said, I don't know what a death ambrosia is, but is that really a compliment? That guy said that in a serious manner? Hey, then what about Darkness? What did she say? What are you saying, Count B. France? I heard that you had taken personally to the battlefield the other day, and that you have worked up your courage for the moment. You are as courageous greater King Goblin. Kazuma-san. This is a personal request from me, but hearing you talking like a girl creeps me out, so you can stop now, alright? This is embarrassing for me, so could you not shut me down so calmly? Anyway, I understand the general gist of how lip reading works. Hey Kazuma, I'm going to try to read what they're saying, so give me the correct answer once I'm done, okay? Aqua loudly announced. The surrounding people turned to look at Aqua. As they all knew that Aqua was an excellent performer, they looked towards her with brimming expectations. Well, lip reading is sort of like a performance skill, so she might be unexpectedly good at it. I then started reading what Darkness and the youth were saying. By the way, Dustina-sama, would you mind if we discuss a potential engagement? Dustina-sama, would you mind if we discuss a potential engorgement? Almost, but not quite. Hearing Dustina-sama mentioned, the surrounding onlookers seemed to understand what Aqua was doing. Count B. France, House Dustina shall politely decline your proposal. See-through pants so loving Dustina shall wifely. Alright, people are looking, so stop. Don't start weird rumors about Darkness again. The day after. It turns out that my hurried efforts to stop her were for naught. Darkness home had received a colorful variety of odd presents at once, and a troubled Darkness, who was suddenly the receiving end of a mysterious case of sexual harassment, soon came to consult with me. End of Volume 11 Short Stories.